join us as we go back out to Monte Cristo.
Monte Cristo. It's if you've watched any of the podcasts that I've been on with Caching in the Northwest, the Geocache Talk Network, David Baker and his podcast that he had with my daughter, the kid and I, just random conversations with me in general. I've talked about places that I've enjoyed geocaching, Monte Cristo has always come up at the top of the list. It's a beautiful place. The trail is not that bad getting out there to the location. The views are amazing. It's beautiful. There's a ghost town out there. I rave about the place. There's a Jasmer cache out there. 2 years ago, 2019, I had an event and had a bunch of people go down there too. And that was my experience, my first experience with Monte Cristo. And I loved the place. It was beautiful. It was awesome. Wanted to go back again in 2020, but COVID, thank you, kind of ruined everything. So finally had a chance to do it again here in 2021. Now, we did have an event beforehand, and then the group, that was there, we all went down to Monte Cristo. And this is where we had some problems happen. There was, I got a little list here of things that kind of popped up that, didn't happen on the first run. And these are reminders that when you're out geocaching, you could have all the best intentions. You could, plan on it for like a long time beforehand and go out there to it, and then all of a sudden just have things go bad. So this is kind of like a reminder that geocaching is a great hobby. It's a great sport. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to go out and explore and see new places. But it's can also have problems. You can also have issues. It can be dangerous if you're not well prepared for things that happen, which I will get to here. Now, if you've watched my video here of Monte Cristo, you'll know that when we went down to where the fourth cache is, we had a problem. Somebody hurt themselves really bad. This cache, the fourth cache, is unfortunately 60 to 70 feet off, which makes it really difficult to find. We entered in, and it is like 100 feet off the trail. All the other caches that you find on the way down to Monte Cristo are there off the trail, like 5 feet off the trail to maybe 10 feet off the trail. There's another one up like a rock. I forget which one it is, near the end where there's like a big rock where the cache is around that area there, and that's maybe like 30, 40 feet off the trail, but it's kind of easy to get to it. But the fourth cache, again, maybe 100 feet off the trail, and again 60 to 70 feet off from where GPS is pointing. And when we were there 2 years ago looking for that cache, that back area there wasn't that bad. I watched a video on it, and that area looked great. It looked pretty easy to navigate through. When we went out there this time around, that back area there was overgrown a lot. I kind of got disoriented because I couldn't remember how we got to it or the exact spot where the GPS was. I just kept thinking, well, find where the GPS is pointing and go 60, 70 feet away from it and start moving around. But on the way out in there to it, one of the cachers that we were with, she was out of her element. She doesn't like that type of terrain. But she went out there with us. She was in front of me, maybe about 5-10 feet in front of me. I was behind, following her on up to get into the back area there. And she got off balance next to this fallen log. Now, this fallen log had broken branches, pointing out, and she had her foot how can I do this like this? Say if this is a branch, she had her foot and leg down along the branch, and when she fell back, her leg kicked up, pulled along the branch as she fell backwards. Now she had pants on, thick, Levi's pants, jeans, and that branch, if you looked at it from like the front, it would have been round at the top and pointed down. This thing was sharp. I could have taken that thing off, broke that thing off that fallen tree, and I could have used that as a knife. It was that sharp and pointy. So when her leg brushed up against it, as she fell back, she peeled the skin off of her leg. She fell back, she screamed, she was in pain. I was there, got her propped up, asking her, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And she was like, no, my leg. And so got her set up, pulled the pants back so we could take a look. So I thought maybe it was just bruised, maybe scarred a little bit. But no, this had skin peeled off. I haven't seen anything like that in real life. I've only seen wounds like that, like in horror movies and surgical dramas and documentaries and stuff on TV. I was pretty freaked out, and it was like, oh my God, this isn't good. And then she started screaming for Bill, the guy who came with her in her group. And he was up ahead, maybe like 60, 70 feet or so. Trying to piece it all together. He came running on down, and we got her leg propped up, and I grabbed one of my waters that I had in my backpack and popped it open, and I used that water to get the blood and dirt, whatever, off of her leg. It was pretty fucking nasty. I'll put it like that. It was terrible. Luckily, it wasn't gushing blood. There was blood. There was, and so I used my water there to get her leg cleaned up. And Bill, thankfully, he had a great, awesome medical pack with him, which is something I'll be bringing up here on my list. So he pulled out some gauze, put it on her leg, and started wrapping it with the gauze roll there, just to keep the thing on there. There were some people who were walking along the trail, and they saw or heard what was going on, and they gave somebody, one of the people in their party, some medical gauze wrappings that they had with them, and they brought that up to us, and we used that there also to wrap that around her leg. And so if that was you, if you're watching, and that was you that gave us that gauze and stuff, July 24th, there, Monte Cristo, thank you so much for doing that. But the lady that hurt herself, we had her leg all bandaged up. I used my machete to cut a way out so we could get her out to the trail. And the people that she was with, there was 3 of them that came in her group. They ended up taking her back to the car. Now, 4 caches in, that's a mile into the 4-mile hike down to Monte Cristo. The 3 of them took her back to the trailhead, and then the rest of us, we continued on with our caching there while the 3 of them left and to get her to the hospital or to emergency room or something here. But we're out in the middle of nowhere, so they still would have had to travel quite a ways away to get her to someplace. Now, when she did get to the emergency room there, I am going to show you some pictures here. You can, and if you're squeamish about things, maybe just look away, just listen, and I'll let you know when it's safe to look. But as you can see here, here's her leg, from what I saw. These two pictures here show the damage that was done just from that branch, falling back with that branch and having that peel the skin off. And again, she was wearing jeans. And then she had to have 21 stitches. And here's the pictures of the stitches. As you can see, that's pretty messed up. That's just from a simple little fall out in the woods. Okay, it's safe to look now. When I see logs like that, when I'm out geocaching, when I have to step over them, when I see those broken branches and they're pointing, they're sticking up along those fallen trees out there in the woods, I'm always kind of scared, like, what if I slip and fall and impale myself on one of those? Well, here's what can happen if you just, the weight of your body and the momentum of your body just rubs up against it wrong. You can have an accident like that. Now, with the medical supplies that I have with me, I have them right here. These are what I carry in my swag bag, because mainly I just do caching around town, some little trails and parks and things around here, and it's kind of rare that I'm out in the woods like this. Yes, I've done GCD and I've done GC12, 17, Monte Cristo, been out there before, and other places. But in my geocaching swag bag, my medical supplies are just these. Band-Aids, some, burn ointment, antiseptic, towelettes, basic Band-Aids. These were not adequate for anything compared to what she had. Here, let's put some Band-Aids on that. That's not going to do anything. So, having a decent medical pack with you when you go caching, especially on a big hike like this. Now, you probably might not need something like this if you're just doing caching around town, but if you're going to be out in the woods and stuff like this, yes, you're going to need a big medical pack. You're going to need stuff. Yeah, you might be spending money on something that you're never going to use. But if you need to use it, you're going to be lucky and glad that you had something like that. Better to be over-prepared than underprepared. So it was great that Bill had those medical supplies with him. So medical supplies, that's a nice thing to have. And also, I would say, being within your element. Now, if she would have stayed along the trail there and said, hey, I don't feel safe back there, you guys go ahead and get it and sign for me. Now, we were with a group of people. We were all fighting these as a group. I am completely, totally cool with somebody in the group who's not confident with going out to a place like that saying, hey, can you please sign that for me? Because we all did sign under a caching group name. Komikino and the Squids was what we put on there. And yes, some cachers individually wanted to put their names on these caches along that trail, and especially that Jasmer cache at the end. I'm completely, totally cool with that. I don't care. I have problems with people who they split up into two groups, and one group caches over here, one group caches over there. Then at the end of the day, they combine their finds. Like, yes, we found those caches over there, and we found those caches that were over there when they were nowhere near each other. I have a problem with that. Armchair caching, that's not cool. But if you're with a group of people and if somebody finds a cache and puts a group name on it, awesome, great. You all found it. You all put in a group effort of being there and maybe searching for it in some way, shape, or form. So know what your limit is. Don't push yourself. If there's a cache that you think is too dangerous to get to, and other people there, let them get it. You can sign it, whatever. Another thing here is water. So this would be like number 3. Having an adequate supply of water with you. Now, I was reading online. This is rei.com, rei.com, and I looked up some information there on what an adequate supply of water to have for a hike like this. Now, unfortunately, I looked this up after the fact that we were there. It says, how much water do you need to drink? Let's see, how much water you need to drink depends on a number of factors. The activity that you're doing, the intensity level, duration, weather, age, and your body type. A good recommendation here is half a liter of water per hour. Now, half liter of water is basically this, 16 fluid ounces there. So one of these every hour. It's a 4-mile hike down there. Takes, and I wrote down the times here. When we did the hike 2 years ago, it took 2 hours and 45 minutes to get down there to Monte Cristo. And then the hike back was about 2 hours, 15 minutes or so. So we're looking at about like maybe 4 or 5 hours. Now that's also including caching along the way. You can do the hike back, because when we did the walk back on this time, it took 2.5 hours, because we also did stop for a little bit there to rest our feet. Again, the first hike down, 2019, 2 hours, 45 minutes from the trailhead down to town. We ate lunch, we did caching, found the jasper caches, and then the hike back was, actually it was about 2 hours and 45 minutes. 5.5 hours would be 5 to 6 bottles of water. I think we did pretty good with that on that trip there. I think Hinako and I did have about maybe like 4 bottles of water each. Of course, we drank water before we started going on down. But this time here on this hike, because of the accident that we had, it took us 4 hours to get from the trailhead down to town. So we spent an extra hour and 15 minutes because of the accident and also some diabetic issues I was having to get down to the town. And then when we left the town, it took about 2.5 hours to get back. Because again, we also stopped to rest our feet and put our feet in the river. So looking at those times, we're looking at about 6.5 hours of hiking on this trip that we did, compared to like the 5 hours and 15 minutes that we did last time. That would mean 6 bottles of water for us to drink. Hinako and I, we both had 3 bottles of water that we drank. And of course we were drinking water beforehand. So we were unfortunately under the limit, way under the limit. We were pretty dehydrated and exhausted by the time we got back. We were not doing too good. And I think that probably dealt with my legs locking up and having issues, which I think could have also been diabetic issues, but I'll get to that in a minute. But when we were walking down there and then we had this accident, I used my water to clean the wound on her leg when she fell. So my 3 waters were down to 2. When we were walking on down after all this incident stuff happened, somebody who was in our party had a water bottle full of water, maybe 2 liters worth, size like 2 of these here. They drank all that on the way down to Monte Cristo, so they had no extra water when we were down there. My daughter, bless her soul for being so generous and so kind, she gave one of her bottles to this person. So my daughter's now down to 2 bottles. Now she did have some Gatorade with her that she was mixing together, so she had some Gatorade with water, so that helped out a bit. But she was still now down a bottle of water. When we were at the town and getting ready to leave, another person that was in the group there had ran out of water there, and they were tempted to drink from the creek that was there. Yes, the water is pure, but I don't know what's in it as far as bacteria-wise and stuff like that. Yes, it'd be cool, maybe feel good going down on that hot summer day, but I don't know what's in it. So probably, again, not the best thing to drink. And we were like, well, you can drink it, but you might be going to the hospital tomorrow. So prepare with an adequate supply of water. Again, 1 bottle an hour. Plan to trip out. As I said, it's about 2 hours in, 2 hours back. If you don't stop, now we did do periodic stops, which is why we had 2.5 hours coming back in, and also all the caching that we were doing on the way down, 2 hours 45 minutes on the way down. So you're putting in all the extra time of caching. So bring more. I would say 5 to 6 bottles of water just in case, for each person. But that was fun to learn after the fact of like, yeah, we were well under equipped for water and again, the medical supplies. Issue number 4 here, my diabetic issues. I'm diabetic. Some of you may know or may not know. It's important to keep tabs of your blood sugars. I have a little insulin reader here. I'll show you. Yes, there you go. Look, yay. That gives me a continuous reading of my blood sugar level. And I had that on me when we were going on this hike. When the person fell and hurt her leg and all the panic and stuff that was going on there, my little the application on my phone that works with this blood sugar reader started going off, letting me know you've got low blood sugar. All that walking and hiking down there kicked my blood sugars low to a dangerous level, which is weird because I took less insulin that morning and I also ate a little bit more, so I should have been writing a lot higher, so my blood sugars would be knocked down gradually from all this hiking and exercising that we were doing. But maybe I exercised a little bit too much. I was burning off too much sugars on the way down there. So my blood sugars dropped pretty low. When we got Karen out of there, I had to stop for like about 10 minutes to eat candy to kick my blood sugars up while we were still looking for that cache. So I was eating candy and the other people were looking for cache number 4. I eventually got the blood sugar levels kind of back up into like a safe range. We found that cache, we continued on, but the exercising and the hiking that we were doing was knocking my blood sugars down, so I had to kind of keep eating some candy as we were walking on down to the town. When we got to Monte Cristo, something bad happened. The glucose reader that I wear, must have came loose somehow, and it fell off. It was just upside down, hanging there on me. So when we got to town, that happened, and I had no way of reading my blood sugar at that point. My doctor said, "Oh, you can go ahead and wear these things, and you don't need to bring your finger pokers to do your blood tests and stuff." So I didn't have one of those. I had no way to read my blood sugar when we were at that town. Yes, I ate my lunch, but I had no way of telling what my blood sugar was at. So I didn't know what to take as far as insulin goes to lower what I ate for lunch. So that caused problems because I don't want to take too much insulin to where it drops again and I could have a diabetic coma or something on the way back out. I also didn't want to not take enough and then have my blood sugars go screaming high, because then that causes issues. So that was a problem there. Now, if my blood sugars get really high, my legs can kind of just cramp up and hurt. I did have leg issues and cramps on the way down to Monte Cristo. But again, I had low blood sugar because the reader was still working at that time, so I'm not quite sure what was going on with that. So at town, I ate, didn't take any insulin. We found the Jasmer cache, they found the other cache, and then we all started heading on out. On the way back, my legs were jammed up and cramping all the time. I had to keep stopping to rest my legs. I eventually took an insulin shot because I thought it was high blood sugar. So I just took a small amount just in case. And then we headed on out there. So issues with diabetes because, again, I had no way of reading where my blood sugars were at from out there. And it was kind of scary because, again, I don't want to write too high, and I definitely don't want it to go too low to where I pass out there in the middle of nowhere like that. Issue 5, shoes. I had brand new shoes that day, like brand spanking new shoes. that I hadn't worn. So I thought, hey, these are brand new. I'll wear them on this hike. I'll break them in. My feet will be okay. No, my feet blistered up bad from these shoes. I don't know if it was just bad shoes or whatever, but my feet blistered up really bad on this hike compared to other hikes that I've been on. This was terrible because on the way down to Monte Cristo, as I said, I had leg cramps and stuff, but then my feet felt like they were on fire. And then when we were coming back, my legs were complete locking up, and I don't know again if that was from like the diabetic issues or just my legs in general, but again my feet were on fire and I had to keep stopping because they were just cramped up, and I can feel that, yeah, these things are blistering up bad. When we stopped and put our feet in the river there, took my socks off, and it's like, yeah, my feet are just so nasty. Blisters real bad. Here's pictures. Okay, picture's gone, so it's safe to look. But again, I don't know if it was just because of I didn't break those shoes in, or if they were just bad shoes. They weren't really trail hiking shoes like they were said they were supposed to be. They were Skechers shoes. I've been wearing Skechers shoes forever. First real bad issue like that. Yes, I've had blisters and tired feet from other hikes, but nothing this bad. And 2 years ago when we did this hike, my legs were not that bad. Yes, I was tired from the hike, like what everybody would be. But I think what was going on 2 years ago that was different from this time is that 2 years ago, the kid and I went out on all these big hikes to these other Jasmer caches. We were out to GCD. We went GC 12 and 17, the Monte Cristo hike. There was other places that we went to where we had to kind of walk for a bit to get these caches. But what we did before the hikes is that we went out weeks beforehand and went walking on trails and parks. We would go out to a park and walk around for an hour, just to kind of get our legs used to moving, just to get used to being out on a trail like that, going up trails, going down trails, things like that. And I think that we didn't do that this year. This is the first time you've been out on a big hike like this since like 2 years ago, because of COVID and stuff, and we haven't gone on many big hiking trips, so we didn't prepare beforehand at all. We just up, boom, on that trail, legs not used to it. So I think maybe that could have been a problem with why my legs were cramping up and getting tired, because they just weren't used to that all of a sudden. It's like, oh, we got to walk 4 miles through the woods on this trail. Yes, it's an easy trail, but it's not like you're going up like a big mountainside or anything like that. There is some rough areas and things, but it's not really difficult. It's just long. So exercise beforehand. Now, one thing that we were prepared for is that you see these batteries here. I had batteries charged up for our cellular devices. Yes, there's no cell service out there, but we had rechargeable batteries all charged up in case we needed to use those to charge up our phones or other people's phones. And I also had a machete. I also had a hunting knife on me, and I also had bear spray with me. So we were prepared with those things, and I only used the machete once just to kind of cut a path out of that one area to get Karen out off of the back area there onto the trail so she can get out after she hurt her leg. I had those things. I had those and the charger. So we were kind of prepared with that. Bear spray just in case, because there are bears out there. But yeah, as far as the other things, whoops. The reason I'm explaining and all this stuff here is because this is a fun hike. It's a great hike. You will enjoy the views. You will enjoy getting the caches along the way. You will enjoy getting that Jasmer cache that's out there. But things can go wrong. We've been caching now for like 8 years now. 8 years plus. And this is the first time we've had anything bad like this happen. So you might be watching this like, oh my gosh, I can get hurt out there. Yes, you can get hurt doing anything. You can get hurt walking across the street. That's probably going to happen before you get hurt out geocaching in the woods like this. Because again, we've been doing this for 8 years and nothing like this has ever happened. And I feel really bad about all this too, because this was an event that I planned and organized for people to go out there to find this Jasper cache. And then this happened. So I was kind of under mental trauma and stress from that hike. Maybe that's why I was kind of just so exhausted and just not feeling good because of all of that. Like, geez, she hurt herself. My legs are cramping up. I'm holding up other people. I'm freaking them out maybe. I don't know. So this is just something that I wanted to put together to let people know that caching can be dangerous. Yes, people have died while caching. You can look up stories online and see where people have died from this or hurt themselves really bad. But if you take precautions, if you take this story into mind, like bring an adequate supply of water, the medical supplies, medical supplies if you need them, like if you're like diabetic or have heart issues or things like that, be prepared for that. Let people know where you're going to be, what time you're going to be out of there, what time you should be home, so people can look for you in case if there's an incident. My wife, she knew where we were going. I told her what time we should be back to where we can get cell service to contact her and let her know. And being that we were running late on this because of the issue of Karen falling there, me cramping up and taking so much time to get down there, and then the time getting back, and then of course we found that extra cache on the way out that added on to time. We were pushing the time limit to where my wife was going to be calling the cops saying, hey, my husband did something stupid out in the woods again. Not again. So we were prepared for that, and she was ready to call, which is great, but it was also kind of like, oh geez, don't do that. We were okay. Yeah. So if you're watching this here and take some of these to heart as far as like what can go wrong, how to prepare, how much water to take, again, medical supplies, first aid kits, make sure those things are properly packed, because you don't want to be stuck out there with an open bleeding wound and just having band-aids there to try and stop that thing. Because if we were like 4 miles or so into that hike and then she had that happen, to get her out would have just been completely, totally insane. They probably had a heck of enough time trying to get from where they were, and that was a mile in, out. So yeah, properly prepare for your trip and hike. Make sure everybody's ready. Make sure everybody's got adequate supplies and food and stuff for them to keep them going on that. But yeah, that's kind of my story of what happened behind the scenes of Monte Cristo. Yeah, I know when you're watching my video here, it's just like, wow, they had a great time out there. We did. We had an awesome time. It was beautiful. It was great. It was fun. But the other issues that happened this time around kind of killed the mood. This is a hike I want to do again, but before we go out, yeah, we're going to be hitting up some trails, and we're going to be hitting up the treadmill, working on my legs just to make sure we don't have issues on the way down again. So yeah, that's what happened, and hopefully you don't run into any issues like that on your hiking and your geocaching trips out in the woods like that there. Be prepared. That's all I can say. Thanks for watching. Me talking about what happened, the behind the scenes moments of Monte Cristo there. And I hope that you don't have anything like that happen on your geocaching trips. I want your geocaching trips to be fun and exciting and enjoyable for everyone. We've had awesome, great times. This is the first one that's just went complete south. So, so much for that. Once you're down, there's only one way to go, and that's up. So I'm looking forward to future caching trips where things go completely totally awesome and showing them to you. Thanks for watching, and until then, cache on.